This stop is Main Street and Amboy Road. Next stop, Main Street and Highland Boulevard. This stop is Main Street and Highland Boulevard. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Brighton Street. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Brighton Street. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Yetman Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Yetman Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Sprague Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Sprague Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Jolene Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Jolene Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Bedell Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Bedell Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Page Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Page Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Richard Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Richard Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Cunningham Road. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Cunningham Road. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Kenny Road. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Kenny Road. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Sherrott Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Sherrott Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Woodvale Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Woodvale Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Bayview Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Bayview Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Inez Street. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Inez Street. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Seguin Avenue. Transfers available to S55 and S56. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Seguin Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Cornelia Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Cornelia Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Luton Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Luton Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Huguenot Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Huguenot Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Arbutus Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Arbutus Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Wendy Drive. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Wendy Drive. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Poyon Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Poyon Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Dole Street. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Dole Street. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Lipset Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Lipset Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Barclay Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Barclay Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Holdridge Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Holdridge Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Arden Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Arden Avenue. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Woods of Arden Road. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Woods of Arden Road. Next stop, Highland Boulevard and Hales Avenue. This stop is Highland Boulevard and Hales Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Highland Boulevard. Transfers available to S79 SBS, S89 Limited and SIM1C. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Highland Boulevard. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and King Street. This stop is Richmond Avenue and King Street. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Shirley Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Shirley Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Coke Boulevard. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Coke Boulevard. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Sycamore Street. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Sycamore Street. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Oakdale Street. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Oakdale Street. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Eltingville Boulevard. Transfer available to Staten Island Railway. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Eltingville Boulevard. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Wilson Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Wilson Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Bartlett Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Bartlett Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Memphis Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Memphis Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Cotton Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Cotton Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Genesee Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Genesee Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Leverett Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Leverett Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Gurley Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Gurley Avenue. Next stop, Eltingville and Transit Center. Transfers available to S55, S56, S74, S84 Limited and SIM4C. This stop is Eltingville and Transit Center. Next stop, Yukon Avenue and Watchman's Office. This stop is Yukon Avenue and Watchman's Office. Next stop, Yukon Avenue and Target Driveway. Transfers available to S44 and S61. This stop is Yukon Avenue and Target Driveway. Next stop, Yukon Avenue and Richmond Avenue. This stop is Yukon Avenue and Richmond Avenue. Next stop, Staten Island Mall at Ring Road and Platinum Avenue. This stop is Staten Island Mall at Ring Road and Platinum Avenue. Next stop, Staten Island Mall at Ring Road and Macy's. This stop is Staten Island Mall at Ring Road and Macy's. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Richmond Hill Road. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Richmond Hill Road. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Nome Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Nome Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Draper Place South. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Draper Place South. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Rockland Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Rockland Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Rivington Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Rivington Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Science Road. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Science Road. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Eaton Place. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Eaton Place. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Victory Boulevard. Transfers available to S62, S92 Limited and Sim 33C. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Victory Boulevard. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Morony Street. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Morony Street. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Yonah Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Yonah Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Christopher Lane. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Christopher Lane. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and West Caswell Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and West Caswell Avenue. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Armand Street. Transfer available to Sim 3C. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Armand Street. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Mark Street. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Mark Street. Next stop, Richmond Avenue and Vedder Avenue. This stop is Richmond Avenue and Vedder Avenue. Next stop, Forest Avenue and Richmond Avenue. Transfers available to S48 and S98 Limited. This stop is Forest Avenue and Richmond Avenue. Next stop, Forest Avenue and Willow Road East. Transfer available to S57. This stop is Forest Avenue and Willow Road East. Next stop, Port Richmond Avenue and Smith Place. This stop is Port Richmond Avenue and Smith Place. Next stop, Port Richmond Avenue and Orange Avenue. This stop is Port Richmond Avenue and Orange Avenue. Next stop, Port Richmond Avenue and Beekman Street. This stop is Port Richmond Avenue and Beekman Street. Next stop, Port Richmond Avenue and Catherine Street. Transfers available to S44 and S94 Limited. This stop is Port Richmond Avenue and Catherine Street. Next stop, Port Richmond Avenue and Homestead Avenue. This stop is Port Richmond Avenue and Homestead Avenue. Next stop, Port Richmond Avenue and Hatfield Place. This stop is Port Richmond Avenue and Hatfield Place. Next stop, Port Richmond Avenue and Albion Place. Transfer available to S57. This stop is Port Richmond Avenue and Albion Place. Next stop, Port Richmond Avenue and Harrison Avenue. Transfers available to S46, S53, S66 and S96 Limited. This stop is Port Richmond Avenue and Harrison Avenue. Next stop, Port Richmond Avenue and Bennett Street. This stop is Port Richmond Avenue and Bennett Street. Next stop, Port Richmond Avenue and Richmond Terrace. Transfers available to S40 and S90 Limited. This is the last stop. This stop is Port Richmond Avenue and Richmond Terrace. This is S59 to Port Richmond. A fare is required to ride.